Prince Harry has been stepping back from the charity that he set up in honour of his mother. Now, this week, the Duke of Sussex announced that he was resigning from Sentebale. And this is not a decision that he would have arrived at lightly. And this story continues to grow and evolve. But what do we know so far, Sarah?
Well, this story is intensifying and it is extremely messy indeed. Prince Harry founded Sentebale with Prince Seeiso of Lesotho in 2006. After he'd been there on his gap year, he spent 2 months in the country.
He was a 19-year-old young man.
He was a 19-year-old, and it was really a turning point for him, this kind of coming-of-age project where Harry was able to show the world that he was much more than just a party prince, that he was someone who could make a real difference. And the connection that he made with these young children that he met in Lesotho, which is a country ravaged by HIV/AIDS. They talk about the lost generation, these children who had been orphaned because of HIV/AIDS. And he understood that, having lost his mother. Prince Seeiso had lost his mother the previous year.
That was their bond, their common bond.
That was their bond. And they set up this charity.
In a country that sees profound loss, especially with young orphans.
Absolutely. And so they set up this charity to help young orphans in 2006. I went out there in 2008 with him to see some of the work that they were doing. He had recruited some army colleagues to go out and build a school for children with disabilities. There you go, a very young-looking Harry and me.
Very young-looking, both of you there, yeah, wonderful.
He was so proud of this work. This is a charity that was right at his core. And so I think it will have taken a lot to step down and it will be devastating.
So what do we know? The accusations are quite potent in as much as they're very strong, and they've been levelled at not just at Harry, but he has been singled out. But all of the trustees, so give us the backstory on where we are with it.
It's an extraordinary war of words. I mean, you know, you had this shift last year moving the fundraising for Sentebale from the UK to Southern Africa. And at that point, certain senior board members started to leave. And what seems to happen seems to be a huge clash between the Board of Trustees...
And this lady here.
And this lady here.
This is Sophie Chandauka.
Who, yeah, exactly.
And what's her position?
Well, she's running. Well, she has been running the show for the last year with the charity, and she came on board and was, you know, I think, you know, her role was to try and boost fundraising. There was concerns that there weren't enough funds coming in as we're going out with Sentebale, so she came in and I think with the promise of being able to deliver much more funding, particularly from across the African continent. That doesn't seem to have happened. Now, there's clearly so much more to come out, but you have Harry, Prince Seeiso, all the trustees resigning in one fell swoop with a stinging statement from Harry and Prince Seeiso saying, we can't believe this has happened, but...
Well, shall I give you some of it? He says the trustees acted in the best interest of the charity in asking the chair, which would be Sophie, to step down whilst keeping the well-being of staff in mind. In turn, she sued the charity to remain in this voluntary position, further underscoring the broken relationship. We thank all the trustees for their service over the years and are truly heartbroken that they've had to follow through with this act. Although we may no longer be patrons, we will always be founders. We will never forget what this charity is capable of achieving in the right care. She came back with some really quite
She came
strong
back with
words.
some missiles.
Right. What did she say?
Well, she put out a statement yesterday that effectively accused trustees and implied Harry and Prince Seeiso of misogyny, bullying, misogynoir, which is, you know, misogyny towards black women, an unbelievably, you know, extraordinary inflammatory accusation, you know,
Given that Harry is married to a woman of colour and the father of two children
and she said, you know, she's a lawyer by training as well. I mean, she's held some really senior positions across business and law firms over the years. She sort of said, I turned whistleblower. Why on earth would I report, you know, the charity to the Charity Commission, which is what she's done, you know, if there wasn't an issue. So she sort of flipped it around and said there's been an issue here.
She says this is the story of a woman who dared to blow the whistle.
Yeah.
About issues of poor governance, weak executive management, abuse of power, bullying, harassment, misogyny, misogynoir, and the cover-up that ensued. I could be anyone. I just happen to be an educated woman who understands that the law will guide and protect me. I will say nothing further on this matter at this time. I have one job.
said enough in that statement. I mean, it's an absolute bombshell.
Isn't it?
And,
Yeah.
I don't think Harry and Prince Seeiso would have foreseen that coming. They would have thought that this will be dealt by her probably stepping back. I mean, will they respond to it? I don't know. It depends if she steps away.
There's another line in that statement which you didn't read out, where she said, you know, where's the effect of it's extraordinary to see someone who, you know, decries the press and loathes the press, using the press to their own advantage.
Yeah. She says
but also calls them a victim.
There are people in the world who behave as though they are above the law and mistreat people, and then play the victim card and use the very press they disdain to harm people who have the courage to challenge their conduct.
And you can't read that
about Harry.
Absolutely.
Only.
Yeah.
Unless Prince Seiso's been on a quest to reform media. No.
And then we had a statement from Sentebale last night in which they said this charity is all about the people working in the field. Patrons, especially founders, are nice to have, but actually it's all about those in the field, and we carry on doing the work we do. So it's thanks very much. We don't need you.
I mean, that's damage and imitation, because this is a crisis for the charity now. From a global standpoint, I think there will, of course, be more allegations coming out about the misappropriation of funds, how
you
it
think
was
that's
managed.
What this is?
I think
the trustees had to move away?
But reading between the lines from both camps, you're seeing that there is a massive issue of the government and running of this charity. The main people who are donating money to Sentebale as well have stepped away in the last few months.
Well, who's going to keep giving the charity money without Prince Harry, without the chance of shaking Prince Harry's hand at a polo match?
And against the backdrop of the infighting, it just looks so messy, and you just wouldn't want to be involved in that.
And who loses out here? The beneficiaries.
The children.
Of course.
The children.
He will be devastated by this, surely, because of the heart and soul that he poured into this.
When you think about when Harry left the UK 5 years ago, the very last time we heard from him before he left was at a dinner for Sentebale, and he gave this very impassioned speech saying, you know, I'd wanted to stay in the UK, I'd wanted to keep serving the Crown and you all, but I've had to step away. But, you know, and talked about how Sentebale and the Sentebale sort of family had put their arms around him and watched him grow up and, you know, marry the woman he loved. It was such an important part of his identity, his link with his life before his new life. And for him to have had to step away from that and see it crumbling will be, he will feel that as a huge personal failure, and it will be painful for him.
One thing that's interesting is that he was back in Lesotho, I think it was October last year, which was his last visit, but there had been quite a gap in visits. And one thing that surprises me is that he's never taken Meghan to see the work of Sentebale, given how important this is to them, given they both absolutely love Africa. It's, you know, where they went on their first holiday together. It's been so important to them. But, you know, this...
It's also kind of where they asked to be posted to if they were ever to make an agreement work where they didn't officially leave.
With South Africa.
But, you know, clearly there have been problems bubbling beneath the surface for a long time now, and they've reached a peak, and they have exploded out into the public conscience now, and that is extremely damaging for the charity.
It's a real shame for the charity.
It tells you an awful lot about the management of their office as well, because, you know, if you had men in grey suits or the people at the palace advising you about this situation, and it has the capacity to absolutely explode like this, what sort of personality are we dealing with here? Could she have the ability to blow this up from the inside?
That's the infrastructure of the palace and the years of experience.
Which is a great help in times like this, at times like crisis, and he doesn't seem to have it at the moment.
It's due to be a polo match. It's in November, wasn't it, in Argentina?
So that won't happen. That will happen.
I mean, those polo matches have raised millions.
Yeah, I think 12 million. Yeah,
12 million for the charity.
Not to be
over the years. No.